Okay, what we're going to go through today is we're going to go through the normal operations of the Vittleveyor. The first thing, when you come in the morning, the door will always be closed. So the first thing you do is you come in, you turn the power button on. The doors start going up. Now, you can't run the basket until the door is all the way up. So you got to wait for the door to go up. When you turn the power on, the audio automatically comes on. So if you don't want to hear anything, you can turn the audio power off without turning the power to the machine off. Okay, now the door is just about ready to go. Okay, the door is all the way up. Now what it's going to do is we're going to push the car or truck button, depending on what height you want. And it's going to go in slow speed, and then it's going to go into high speed when the basket gets past the opening. And then when it gets outside, as soon as you be able to see the basket outside, it will slow down again. Okay, what I'll do is I'll push the truck button. Now you notice the basket will go up in slow speed and then speed up. Slow, fast. On the outside, as soon as you see it on the outside, it slows down again. Now when it's out there, you can go down to the car button, height, and come back out to the truck height. But you can't go back down to the car height. Okay, then when I start it up again, it's going to go into slow motion, and then it's going to fast. There goes the slow. As soon as you can't see it, they go into fast. Now just go slow in here. Okay, the audio, you just push the audio button on, and you should hear incoming all the time. To be able to talk to the customer, you push the talk button, and right here is your microphone at the top. You just talk to the customer. That's all you have to do. They also have a buzzer on the outside. If they hit the buzzer, you're going to hear this buzz right here. It's got a volume control on it too. But that's basically all you need to know to run the Vittleveyor. Okay, now what we got here is we got our DC motors for our driving the Vittleveyor, and we came up with a bench test for these to find out if the motor is good or not. We have an old style, which is like this one, and then we have the newer style, which has the connection like this to it. Okay, now what we have done with the motors is we found a way to check the voltage to see if the brush have wore any and have any dust built on it to create a voltage in the motor itself. So what we do is we put their meter on ohms, and we've got 2 power leads going to it and 1 ground going to it. We put a lead on the ground and 1 on the power, and if you should read 30,000 or more ohms. If it's less than that, then the motor's bad. Now the way you do it is you set your meter on ohms, and find the ground is there's a little slide tab right here, and that's the one that your ground is, the one that's closest to that. Now what you do is you put your 1 lead on this and 1 on your power, and if it reads 30,000 ohms, or it's good. But if you read and then you read to the other one, from this lead to the other power, the ground to the power, you can't be hitting any of the other parts of it. You can just be hitting these tabs. So if you do that, you should be reading 30,000 or more. If it's any less, then it's bad. Now on this motor right here, which is the new one, the ground is in the middle. So you do the same thing. You check that's a power and that's a power. So you put one of your leads in here and you put the other leads in your ground. You check both of your powers. And that's how we determine whether the motors are bad or good. Okay. Now what we also got to do is we got to check between your 2 power leads. And you put your meter on ohms and you put both of your on your powers, and you should be reading 5.5 to 6.3 ohms. That is what your reading should be. If it's not, then it's a bad motor. Alright, what we've got now is we've got our control boxes. We have our large control box and our small control box. What we're going to do is we're going to change EPROMs in case it ever happens. The EPROM's located right here. When you first open the machine, you have this cover on there. You just put your finger in there and pull it out. Take that off and you have your EPROM in here. This is what your EPROM looks like. It just has all these little legs to it. The EPROM goes in one way. There's a little tab on the top here. And there's a little tab on the plate that it mounts to. You've got to put it in the same way, and you got to make sure that each one of these legs go in each hole that it's designed to go into. If it doesn't, it won't work right. So if you ever have to do it, what you have to do is just pry it a little bit with the screwdriver, not real hard, on both sides. That EPROM will come right out of there. Now if you can notice right here, there's a slot on this, and there's a slot right here on this one right here. Those have got to match. So you take it out, you get your new EPROM, and you get the slot to the slot, and you got to make sure each one of those go in where they're supposed to go. Then after you get them all started, then you just push on it, and it's set. Okay, now we've got a small control box over here. It's a different kind of EPROM, but it's basically the same thing. This is the EPROM we're going to put into it. It has a 1 slide on it and a 2 slide on it. Okay, now what you do is you just grab a hold of this and you just pull it out. This one's a little bit easier because it doesn't have all those legs that you got to mount in there. Now if you look on your plate here, you've got 2 slots and you got 1 slot. And on the back of this, you have 2 slots and 1 slot. Just turn it around, push it in, and that's how you change an EPROM. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to move your stop switches. We're going to send you the stuff to do it with, so I just want to show you how you use what we send you. What you're going to do first is we're going to give you a set dimension to put it at. So, okay, now we're going to give you a set dimension, so what you're going to do is you're going to measure from a certain point, which probably from the bottom of your machine or from the laminate. We call this the laminate, is what we call. So what you can do is you're going to make a mark where we tell you to, and then we'll send you a jig, which is really how far you're spacing it off, and you put the jig right up against the tape track and you mark it. Okay? And then what we'll do is we'll punch it. Okay? Then you get your small bit. Really doesn't matter what size, just that it's small. You drill right where you punch. Okay? We're going to send you a bit that looks like this right here. Okay? Then you just drill into this. Okay? And after you do that, we're going to send you another bit that's called a counter bore bit. What you're doing is you're just counterboring the laminate until you get to the aluminum. So if you watch while I'm doing it, you can actually see when the aluminum comes up. You're going just about an 1/8 inch deep. I'm just now starting to see aluminum. Now you just see the aluminum. That's all the deeper you want to go. And you get just the extra burrs off of it because you want your switch to go down all the way. Then we're going to send you a switch, just like this. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to slide this part of it into it, which is your connection, which we'll go into deeper with another portion of this video. And then what you do is you just push your switch right into it. And that's all there is to drill on a stop switch. Okay, now some of your machines are outdated, so we're going to send you some wires to update them so you can move some of your switches. All the numbers and everything's going to be in the paperwork we send you. Now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be moving this stop switch up on the inside. And on the outside you'll be moving your car and your truck switches up, plus adding a switch to the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you a wire that's like this, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your switch out of there. It's got two little tabs on it, and you're going to pull your wire out. Okay? And when it pulls out, you're going to have this, or this, but it'd be facing in. That's all connected to a loom just like this. But what you're going to do is this wire is going to be much longer than this. It's going to go from this side all the way down, and there's a hole down there with wires chased already, and you're going to go over and back up to this side. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to match color to color. So what you're going to do is after you have your switch out, you're going to drill your hole over here and your hole over here and move your switches up and pull your wire out the new hole, and then you're going to cut this wire. Okay, and what you got to do is you got to strip all this wire, and you're just going to jump all those wires to these wires, and they're going to be 3 wires to each connection. And what we're going to do is we're going to send you some inlines, the red inlines. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my green to green, since this is my color here. Each switch has a black and a white wire going to it. There's my green. There's my white. Here's my black stripe. Now what I'll do is I'll pull this wire down through here, and this will be hanging out on this side, and go all the way around until it comes over here. And you pull it out your hole over here. Now you strip these back. And then you just go color to color. Go your black stripe. Then your green. And then your white. Now the only thing you have to do is put your switch in here and slide it. Put your switch in here. There's only one way of doing it. You can actually do it backwards, but you got 3 prongs and you got 3 wires. So you push it in, then you have your hole in there, and you just push this in that hole, and the same on the other side. You have your switch, your wires hanging out, put your switch onto it, and just push your switch back into the hole. And that's how you make switches on both sides. What we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to replace, on a drive you have a side of surrounds on each side that drives the sprocket, that drives the tape. Okay, the tape goes around the sprocket and pushes and pulls the basket in and out. What we have had problems with is on the end here you have the sprocket and you have the lower surrounds and the upper surrounds. And what we're doing is we designed surrounds to fit closer to the sprocket, so the tape doesn't have a chance to double over or back inside of here. So what I'm going to show you is how to replace tape surrounds on the old drives. What you got to do is you got to take each one of these bolts out and just remove the surrounds, and I'll do that. These are the only bolts you got to take off when you're doing this. You don't want to be taking any of the other bolts loose on the drive. Take those out and this just comes right off here. Okay. Now after you do all this, you should be able to take this surround right off. Okay. And then what we do is send you some new ones. Okay. What you got to do is you got to inspect your sprocket. That sprocket just walks on this shaft. So you just slide it right off. And the teeth here is what you got to look at. Get an old piece of tape, put it over the holes, and see how deep it is on your surround there. Now what we have found out is some of these teeth get pushed down in there and it doesn't hit on each one of these holes. So that can be a problem too. So you got to inspect all your teeth and see if you need a new sprocket or not. So if your sprocket looks good, your teeth looks good, then you go ahead and just use the same sprocket. Put the sprocket on, slide it on, see how it walks. It's able to walk. Okay. Then what you do is you put the new surround on the bottom, and you just put all your bolts in. Put all your bolts in before you tighten anything down. So you got a little bit of adjustment. I'm just going to do my 4 corners here to show you. If you notice, one side of this is countersunk. You always want to have it on the outside. Okay, I set up the lower one first. What I do is I put a small piece of tape in it, And one of the tools that we're going to be sending to is a little tool we welded for a 3/8 ratchet that goes right in. It's like a shaft with a key on it. It goes right into the gearbox. What you do, you put it in there and you just turn your sprocket until the teeth catch. Now what happens here is my sprocket's out too far, so it's not catching exactly on the end of the teeth, so I'm going to bring it back out, and I could actually push my sprocket in a little bit. Now I feel it's catching on my teeth. What I'm looking at is going around here. All right. Now what I'm going to look for is down here is where to set the height on this. What you want to do is you don't want it to be too tight down here. You just make it a little tight. So I find a good spot. Make sure it's even at the top when you pick it up. I just tighten it down. I just tighten my two bottom ones, because you're going to need a little bit of float up here to make sure this gap in here is 9/16. So what I'll do here is I'll pull this out a little bit, tighten it down, just snug it, push this one out. Now the only thing you got to do is tighten the rest of these up when you put them in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the top up here. The top is really tight. The tape doesn't go through there, so you don't have to have as big a gap on the top as you do on the bottom. The tightest point is like right here and here. There's going to be a little bit more of a gap up here than there is going to be right here. What you want to do is set this point. It's like a paper thickness between the sprocket and the top of the surround right here.